investigation, the resolution received only 6 out of 41 votes in favour, and without waiting for the outcome of OPCW testing, Russia has reverted to a familiar path of undermining the international institution involved. There is no other construction we can place on Mr. Lavrov's remarks today that Russia will accept results of the OPCW Salisbury poisoning investigation only if Russian experts participate in it. I am sorry, Mr. President, but that does not make it an independent investigation. If Russia insists on having its own experts, it seeks to move away from the Chemical Weapons Convention's stipulation, and it is setting a test that no independent investigation could credibly tolerate. This is part of a wider pattern, sadly, of irresponsible Russian behaviour. Russia discredited the joint investigation mechanism into use of chemical weapons in Syria. Members of the Council will be familiar with a pattern of aggression over the years in Georgia and Crimea. There has been the shooting down of MH17, and there has been a bungled attempt at a coup in Montenegro. And each time, Mr. President, these acts are accompanied by distortion and disinformation. The same sort of distortion and disinformation we saw yesterday in The Hague, in the Russian press conferences, and in the Security Council today. Mr. President, whilst we ourselves would not have called this meeting today, we hope to be able to brief the Council further once we receive the report from OPCW. We do believe that it is right that the Security Council remains seized of this flagrant use of chemical weapons, and it is that use which threatens international peace and security. The threats to the Chemical Weapons Convention from attacks in Syria, in Malaysia, and now the United Kingdom pose a very serious challenge to the non-proliferation regime that this Council and others have carefully constructed in response to the terrible events of the past. There is one country among us, Mr. President, Russia, which is playing fast and loose with our collective security and the international institutions that protect us. It is that reason, Mr. President, that leads people to accuse Russia and to take steps against her. It is not out of lack of friendship for the Russian people or lack of respect for Russia as a country. My own Foreign Secretary visited in the hope of establishing a more productive relationship with Foreign Minister Lavrov, but we cannot ignore what has happened in Salisbury. We cannot ignore Russia turning a blind eye to the use of chemical weapons in Syria and in Salisbury, and we cannot ignore the way that Russia seeks to undermine the international institutions which have kept us safe since the end of the Second World War. Mr. President, we believe that the UK's actions stand up to any scrutiny. We have acted in accordance with the CWC throughout and through the body charged for these purposes, the OPCW. We are happy to come to the Council at any time. We would be very willing to hold an open briefing at our mission here in New York if there are members of the UN who still have questions. We have nothing to hide, Mr. President, but I do fear that Russia might have something to fear. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for her statement. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yesterday, this council met on the tragic anniversary of the sarin attack in Concha.
Ambassador Haley urged us to use the meeting as the start of a renewed partnership and a renewed commitment to address chemical weapons. That is because, as she said, no one wants to live in a world where chemical weapons are used. We were reminded of the human toll of the devastation caused by chemical attacks and of the fact that we came together over many decades to build an international consensus banning these despicable weapons of war. Sadly, today's meeting isn't about any of that. Instead, it's yet another attempt by Russia to use this Security Council for political gains.